The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles.
And Charles, amazing news from Optus.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I don't know whether you saw this.
Have
you got an Optus phone?
I've got an Optus phone, so I don't really keep up with the news anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of our podcast numbers have been affected by this. Kelly Bayer Rosmarin resigned as CEO yesterday, Charles.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, technically, I think she sent the resignation email the moment she could see the floor, but being on Optus, it just came
That
through.
gag had to be done, didn't it?
Yeah, I nearly tweeted it, and then I thought, is that too obvious?
Yeah.
And then the Chaser came right in on chaser.com.au with that one. It had to be said.
Yeah, No, I immediately texted John, who's the editor, with that gag this morning.
Right-thinking people agree. I think right-thinking people agree that it was the appropriate move.
Well,
by
look,
Kelly Bayer Rosmarin.
she is a very strange passenger, that woman. Was criticised when it happened for leading possibly the worst PR disaster ever.
Yeah.
In that they didn't even try to come up with a narrative for what had happened. It was just like, it's terrible, isn't it?
Oh, dear. And I think my favourite bit of publicity, because this just keeps coming on, my favourite bit of publicity is that she's been carrying around not only Telstra SIMs, but Vodafone SIMs in case there's another outage. She literally admitted that she's in the Senate inquiry that she's been relying on other carriers. So that's one thing to look at in today's news. We'll get into Kelly and her not only one, but two massive outages at various telcos.
But possibly the biggest news today is that the Australian cricket team, which, as we all know, if you've been listening to any News Corp columnist, is too woke to win anything.
Too woke. Rita Panahi told me there was no chance they could win a thing because Pat Cummins far too busy being woke and self-righteous rather than going and winning cricket games like Steve Waugh wasn't woke, Charles.
No, exactly. And look at all the, cricket matches that he captained to victory.
Yep. And mental disintegration.
Yeah.
Where was that in the World Cup final? Well, it was on the face of every Indian player by the end, unfortunately. We'll talk about that as well.
But I've got a theory about why India lost.
Of course you do. Despite the fact that Charles is going to outline a theory, you should probably listen after this.
Okay, so which one should we do first? I kind of feel like the cricket's going to be funner than the Optus one.
Well, I think it would be fitting for Optus if we left it till the end.
Yeah, or just
didn't get to it at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so we may or may not actually get to that point.
Yeah.
But as an Optus customer, which is why you can find all my personal details on the dark web, I do have some venting to do. But let's start with the cricket. Charles, did you stay up?
I stayed up until about 11 when it was about... India was already looking bad. It was like 210 for 7 or something. At that point, the commentator said, I think India would be very happy with 240 at this right, and that is actually what they ended up getting. So,
that was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I stayed up for the whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing?
I mean, admittedly assisted by the fact that I have, in one of the worst pieces of timing imaginable, just returned from India.
Oh, really?
Meaning that my body clock was on Indian time, which is why I feel so deeply unwell today. But it meant that staying up until 3 or whatever it was absolutely fine. I actually drifted off at a key moment between Australia looking like they were going to lose, because they really did at the start of the Australian batting innings.
It was like 4 for 70. No, 4 for 27 or something.
Yeah, 3 for 20 odd. Just after Steve Smith got out, and by the way, he was in no way out. It was a terrible mistake not to challenge. I thought, and I texted Chaz actually, Labuschagne and Head could do this, but the bowlers run playable. Particularly Bumrah was just absolutely impossible to play. And then
and the wicket was rigged.
The wicket, it was very favourable. Not rigged so much as what every team does. Yeah, it was very much chosen to benefit the host.
In the tradition of cricket.
Yes,
it was
absolutely.
Rigged. Yeah.
And my favourite thing about this is that you know what defeated India at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad? Dew.
Yes, they were talking about that when I drifted off to sleep. I love how cricket coverage is. Yeah, when did you fall asleep?
Yeah, that's right. No, I briefly drifted off, but no, I woke at the perfect time with about 30 or 40 still to get.
But they were saying, what if there's dew? There might be some dew. But they didn't explain why that would be so advantageous to the Australians.
Well, this is the thing. I kind of love this. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, has this massive stadium named after him. It's a temple of his ego, essentially. 130,000 people can fill it. I don't think it was actually full for the final. They keep saying about 93,000 but a massive crowd and hugely one-sided, right?
Well, it was all dressed in blue T-shirts.
Everyone was dressed in blue India kit. But, I've been to India-Australia contests in Australia, and the atmosphere is electric until India start fucking up. And then, honestly, you can hear a pin drop. When Mitch Marsh unleashed a monster six before getting out cheaply, I've never heard, I think, a six get absolutely no reaction.
Yeah.
Like the Aussies would have been booing, let's be honest, but there was no applause.
Yeah.
There might have been one person just with a golf clap.
I think the Aussies were all asleep by then.
That's right. And so Modi built this massive showpiece. And by the way, this is the place where he and Albo, earlier in the year when Australia played a test there, were riding around in some sort of weird golden chariot. It was a very odd bit of political stage management.
That's right.
It was like completely strange. So this was supposed to be the crowning victory for Modi's India in the Modi Stadium at the Modi World Cup with the trophy presented by Modi, defeated by Dew. And so India can kind of basically take over world cricket and have the majority, or have a lot of the key positions on the ICC. They can, I think they're having the World Cup again in 8 years. It basically the Indian game.
They run the cricket now.
They do, and all the revenue comes through the IPL. I'm fine with that. It's a nation of 1 billion people. It's really a good thing in many ways. But I love that even this massively controlling Prime Minister who's had cricket as part of his brand cannot guarantee a World Cup victory because of Dew.
Yeah, well, you could say it was Dew, but I've actually got another theory.
I just want to explain why Dew is a factor.
Yeah, okay.
It was never actually. I managed to discern it from Ricky Ponting.
The wetness means what?
It's pretty simple. So Pat Cummins saw the forecast, and that's why he said he won the toss and said he was going to bowl.
Yeah.
Which everyone thought, what the hell? You never bowl.
No one does
in
that.
one-day cricket.
Yeah.
You always bat.
I just thought it was because he was a bowler.
Yeah.
And
I thought they were asking me what I do.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, it's a language
Yeah,
barrier
what
thing.
do you want to do?
Yeah,
well, I like to bowl.
I'm a bowler, yeah. No, it wasn't that at all. And this is this crazy thing about cricket is because he won the toss, got to choose. It's all very well to kind of prepare a pitch that favours your slower bowlers and spin and so on. But unfortunately, if there's dew, the ball gets soggy. So the ball gets hit along the ground, picks up moisture, and unless you've got some sandpaper handy, and this is the thing that would have been so useful if we needed it. I'm sure we had some ready. Unless you got that sandpaper handy or the kind of the mints, the strong mints that they chew and rub the ball. Unless you cheat, the ball gets soggy. And so what happened in the Australian innings when the dew started to arrive, it was forecast to come in the second innings, was that India's amazing fast bowlers and seamers and so on and spinners went from being unplayable and getting nicks. I mean, at the start of the Australian innings, they've bowled so well that the Australians couldn't even connect with the ball to edge it.
Right,
They just kept swinging and missing because the ball was moving so much.
Well, that was the problem with Steve Smith, wasn't it? That he thought he'd hit it because normally he would have.
Yeah.
But it was bowled so well he didn't.
Well, it was LB, but it was pitching way off. But he just thought, I'm in India. And the crowd cheered massively and it was very intimidating. But then as soon as the ball gets waterlogged, it just doesn't spin anymore.
It's like playing with a tennis ball with sweat.
It turned into a tennis ball.
It's really fun.
Head and Labuschagne lasted for long enough for the cricket ball to turn into a tennis ball.
Yes.
And thereby Australia won just because we knew there was dew.
Slogfest.
Yeah. And then so what's going to happen? I'm very confident between now and the next World Cup is going to build a roof over Narendra Modi Stadium.
Yes.
And I suspect, look, you might have heard, Charles, that Gujarat, which is the place where Ahmedabad is, the state, it's a dry state. You can't get booze there.
Yeah, no.
And I now think it's going to be even drier. I think dew's going to be banned in the state of Gujarat after this.
Well, that's a very Modi way of dealing with it, is just ban it.
Yeah. I mean, just point out that it's not patriotic. And basically, it should probably move overseas. All the moisture should probably go over the border to Pakistan.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So well done, Australia.
Yes.
A great kind of arsehole victory, really, in that a country was so key. It meant so much to India.
Especially.
And we've already got 5.
We've got 5, but also we did it in such a shit way in that we lost. We lost the first 2 at least.
First 2 against India.
Yeah.
Which looked really bad for us. And then against South Africa. So we were looking like we couldn't mix it with the best teams.
Yeah, and it was just like the whole beginning of the tournament was a complete disaster. Like I actually made a comment on this podcast about how terrible Pat Cummins is.
Is that why we won? But it was also his wokeness. He stopped being fucking woke and paid attention to the team.
So this is my theory, Dom, about why why India won.
Okay.
India lost. This is my theory for why India
Breaking
lost.
news, India lost,
Yeah.
just to be clear.
Which is they're too woke. See, the problem is not that Australia was too woke to win. It's that they got out-woked by India, and that's why India lost.
And I haven't yet caught up with Sky News' take.
But I
on
am
this.
presuming that will be their take.
I don't need to. I don't
No.
need to watch Sky News because what
Yes.
you're saying sounds so correct. Not politically correct, i.e. wrong.
No.
But correct.
Yeah, correct as in not woke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like you weren't woke during the final. You weren't watching it all.
That's right. So I think this is a wake-up call for the Australian team.
It's a woke-up call,
It's a
Charles.
woke-up call because the thing is that now they've played against a more woke team than them. And so if they learn from this anything, it's that they should stop being so woke.
Yes, and I really think, particularly, India should not have gotten involved in the referendum campaign the way that they did.
Yes.
Just focus on the cricket, mate. We don't want
Yes.
your opinions about everything.
Yes.
I'm hoping that they'll all be given shows on Sky News, which could potentially use a bit more diversity, Charles.
What do you
Unlike a
mean?
certain podcast.
Do you reckon we should now move to Optus?
After this.
The Chaser Report. News you can't trust.
So, the thing that I love about this story, Charles, is the revelation that she actually presided over not one but two debacles. And,
We're talking about the Optus CEO.
Kelly, not anymore, Kelly Bayer Rosmarin, the now former CEO of Optus.
My favourite point in this whole saga was a few weeks ago, she'd been criticised for not keeping ahead of the narrative when Optus went out and there was no Optus services for 24 hours. And so she went on ABC RN, Radio National, the next day to sort of apologise. And she was quite forthright, we apologise and, we can do better and blah, blah, blah. And then Hamish McDonald was the host that day and he said, so has anyone asked you to resign? And she went, I think I've given you enough. Okay, see you, bye.
The line's breaking up, which admittedly is a plausible excuse for your
She
Optus.
just it wasn't like, normally you'd expect some evasion or just a witticism to sort of deflect. But instead she just went, it was so strange. That never happens, especially on Radio National where people go, bye-bye, and then just hang up.
Well, you don't have to answer the question.
Yeah, but she obviously had already then. But did she have to resign because a couple of days ago it came out that the whole problem was upstream? Like it was the Singtel was actually well.
This is one of the
Optus'
great
spin
theories.
was the root cause was upstream with Singtel. And my wife actually even said to me, "You think it's wise for Optus to blame it on their owners?"
Their owners, yeah. Well, the great theory I think I mentioned before was that the board of Singtel were in town. They're literally having a meeting here because Australia's a much bigger market than Singapore. Singapore's got, 4.5, maybe 5.5 million people.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's a much bigger country. So by virtue of owning Optus, I think
sort of
Singtel has more customers.
I always think of Singapore as sort of better than us in every way.
Well, they're so rich that they're all worth more than us.
Yeah, but
no, the Singapore's population is much smaller. I think it's
right.
about 5.5 million, something like that.
Well, it is just one city.
It is.
Yeah, so.
Do you know one of the best things about? Because I was just in Singapore on the way home. You know one of my favourite things about Singapore?
The authoritarianism?
Yeah, of course, and I have to say that. No, it's that addresses are just a street name and number. That's all you need.
Because you don't need
there's only
the
one
city.
of every street.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
even need to say which suburb. It's like no country, no city.
Oh, right. So
Yeah.
they don't have two George Streets.
That's
or-
it.
Yeah.
So it'd just be, and I haven't come across one anyway. So you tell a cabbie, I'm going to Club Street or something, or Mosque Street or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep.
They know where that is. It's pretty efficient. We should definitely do the show there.
Yes.
I think we could be based there and talk about the Australian government. I think they wouldn't mind if we did that. It's a lovely place to live.
Yeah. I know a few people who lived there for a while and weren't in any way political, and all of them ended up fleeing the place
'Cause they
after
said
a while.
something.
Just going, actually you realise after a while just how horrible it is. There's this sort of sinister underbelly that you don't see for the first 10 years.
You won't hear that comment if you're downloading it via Optus.
Yeah.
We haven't really ever discussed the issues with our number 2 telco
Being owned by a foreign government.
Singapore, by
Yeah.
a foreign government. And the whole question, Charles, the thought that I had was, well, why the fuck don't networks roam to each other when they go down? I mean, Telstra, and I was a Telstra customer when this happened too, so I seem to follow network to network with the debacle.
Maybe you're the reason.
I think I'm the problem, yeah. I mean, when they went down, why can't you roam onto Optus? Why can't they have a special thing that they switch on where everyone's phone just switches over to another network?
But wouldn't they have to pay for that?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. No, but...
I mean, the telecommunications minister could just require it. It wouldn't be complicated. They could just say, Optus customers have to be able to access Telstra.
But wouldn't that mean you'd have a whole lot of shithole freeloader clogging up the network?
No, I don't mean permanently. I just mean you flick a switch.
Yeah.
Oh, but the problem is Optus wouldn't flick the switch
Yeah.
for hours.
They wouldn't be able to.
And the switch would be in Singapore.
Yeah, that's
And no
right.
one would be able to call.
But also, wouldn't that be... I mean, I've got Vodafone. My normal network usage is that the phone doesn't work.
Yeah,
like
okay,
the switch
seems
would be
like a flaw.
permanently flicked to Telstra. Like literally...
What's in it for Telstra?
Yeah.
Well, Telstra did go down at one point for a day, and I think twice actually in the same year, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And had to give everyone free stuff. I love that Optus' solution is to give everyone more Optus, 200 gigs free data. Whereas Amazim, which is on the Optus network, gave everyone a free month.
Oh,
Yeah, they actually gave them free.
That's actually nice.
It's actually a useful thing. Because the one thing Optus customers don't want is more Optus. They're all leaving for Telstra.
Yeah, I'm thinking of going to Telstra. I'm not even on Optus. I'm on Vodafone. I think I actually, at the beginning of this episode, pretended I was on Optus.
You did?
Yeah.
I actually am.
I'm actually on Vodafone partly because you can't get Telstra where I am, but I don't know what to do. I don't care.
Just get rid of your phone.
Maybe I should just...
Everyone's got your number. It's a liability at this point, Charles. If you think Charles should switch to your telco, 0419 282 188.
What next for this Optus CEO?
Who's the new CEO going to be?
Well, but what's her qualification? Her qualifications are she's good at leaking stuff onto the dark web and stuffing things up.
Yep.
I'm thinking either a major pathology organisation, like they all leak all their data.
Oh, yes, that's good. Yes, you could run Medibank Private.
Medibank Private would be perfect for her. I think Qantas, I mean, they've just got a new CEO, but the whole, I mean, they leaked data and also their network doesn't work at all.
Yep,
So
that works.
That would work well. I mean, basically any Australian corporation she could walk into, and with those qualifications, she'll be CEO in a moment.
I mean, what about government? She could take over Centrelink and fix Robodesk. And who are they appointing now? I mean, I haven't heard who the new CEO of Optus is.
Well, it's Alan Joyce. Yeah,
of course, it's Alan Joyce. I thought you were going to go with our default joke of 2023 and say, well, it's obviously Ben Robert Smith. Because cutting people off is his thing. Hey, that doesn't quite work.
I think
Rapid
actually
disconnections.
What happened was they were trying to work out who to appoint as CEO. Turns out Scott Morrison has already appointed himself CEO. Hey.
Just listen to any other previous episode of this podcast for the same points being made. Thank you for joining us. We're at the Australian Podcast Awards tomorrow. We've been nominated for Best Comedy.
Yes.
It's been a thin year for comedy, hasn't it? Dan Illich will win again with Irrational Fear, but it's nice to go and congratulate him. It was his birthday today, actually. Happy birthday, Dan. As a gift, we got you a fourth fucking trophy.
Yeah.
You spoiled so-and-so.
Our gear is from Rode. We are part of the Iconoclast network. Catch you tomorrow.